Hey everybody, today I'm going to give a photogrammetry demo. And I'm going to try to give it as real time as possible. The only time I'm going to pause is when the computer is doing raw processing or when my computer reboots itself because it likes to crash. But that's not because of photogrammetry, that's because it's my computer. We're going to start off by going, photogrammetry is the process by which you turn lots and lots of photos into a 3D model. And for our demo today, I went to the Cleveland Museum of Art, and they've got a really cool show in which they have a column capital of a grotesque. And if we kind of look around here, I have taken all these photos, and it was neat because it was mounted on its stone pedestal, and it was kind of fake mounted on the top with looks like drywall. And I could only get half of it, and then I had to go around the other part of the wall and get the other half. And I made sure to get all the photos from above and from below and from what I always call the belly shot. So I want to make sure that I've seen everything that I could see. But I didn't do anything special. These were shot with my iPhone. I spent literally a few minutes and I took a total of 99 photographs. Nothing special in terms of the settings on my camera. I didn't change the zoom, and I didn't change anything else. It's very important that all the cameras be the same, because that's what this is trying to do, is match the cameras. But basically I walked around and took 99 different photographs. So now that I've taken these 99 different photographs, I'm going to go into Agisoft. Voila, here I am in Agisoft Metashape. Now, one of the things that I like to do when I go through this is I'm going to talk about some of the ways that I do it. There's always a better way of doing it. Please don't yell at me, Internet. I'm just showing you the way that I do it, and it makes me happy. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save my project, save as, and I'm going to come over here to my CMA samples folder. And if I'm not mistaken, this was sample number 3. So I'm going to call this... there it is. My column is named my project. Now, by doing this, by saving this first, that gives me a place where I can keep saving it along the way. And if I crash, then at least I'm good to my last save point. Again, a little bit of paranoia. This is extremely processor intensive. File, workflow. I'm going to add photos. Add photos. And if you look, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab them all. And I am going to grab them all. I'm not going to work in chunks or in different sections. I'm just going to say, here's a folder, all of my photos, and I grab them all. And I've created one chunk with 99 cameras in it. And if I come over here, these are my 99 cameras. And this, of course, is my 3D perspective workflow. And again, because I've done something major, I'm going to hit save. This is easy so far. I can do this. Go back to my workflow, and now I'm going to align the photos. Now, when I align the photos, what it's going to do is it's going to look carefully into every photo and attempt to match points, and from those points extrapolate where the cameras were, and then from those cameras try to extrapolate what the 3D model looked like. It's kind of a double reverse thing here. I'm going to go with the highest accuracy I can with a generic pre-selection. This is, by the way, the default setting, nothing crazy here. And I'm just going to let this alone. Key point 4000, tie point 5000, and I'm going to click on OK. And then I let it run, and like magic, it's going to say it has 2 minutes left, and that's a lie. I'm going to pause it, and we will continue after it's done its processing. And it's done. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit save because paranoia. What we see here is, and it's kind of funny because it aligns all the photos and then the entire thing is on its side. And it's always funny to me when I'm looking at this going like, why is it on its side? But I've never fully understood exactly how it picks which is up in this software. And if we look, we see a model. And the good news is if you can see your model, that's a good thing. Now, when I look at this, wherever I double click, this little ball is going to appear, and that ball is going to allow me to rotate and take a look around, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Also, what you're noticing is there's a lot in the background. There's actually an enormous amount in the background, and if I zoom out, you're going to see that it captured a lot of data. Now, what all that data is that's data around the room. And, of course, this is the column capital I meant to capture. This is the one I didn't. This is the one I didn't. This is the entire next room. That's actually probably leading into a corridor, if not to a window. A lot of strange data here, and it's kind of fun to look at. But I can explain it a little bit differently. If I come over here and click on view mode, not view mode, show items, and I click on show cameras, what it's going to show me is all the cameras that I took. And that is all the photos that I took and where I was when I took them. And this is a really good approximation of where I was standing. And you can see that I kind of, I went around the column 3 times, above, below, and in front of it. The other thing is based on where the other 2 columns are, you're going to kind of see that kind of I reached over and I reached over this way. These were not as easy to take because there's a semi-wall here. The neat part is that again, I was looking this way. All the data that you see outside of this blue cloud is sort of background data. And you know what? It's the data I don't want. I don't really care to capture the whole room. It's just nice to know that it's there. So keeping those cameras in place is very, very convenient for me because I can actually use this to sort of remind myself that anything that isn't those cameras I don't want. I'm going to come over here, and next to my navigation tool is my selection tool. I'm going to use the freeform selection tool, which allows me to come over here and just draw any shape I want, and then hit the delete key on my keyboard. And it's very nice because it's very, very loose. And then I go back to my navigation key, and I can do this again. I want to make sure that I get rid of all the data. And look, there's still a huge amount of data I missed, which is so fun because you really want to get rid of, you want to get rid of the data on 2 levels. First, you want to get rid of the data that's very far away. And there are ways of mathematically doing it, but I'm much more interested in sort of the controlled way of doing it that I have gone through specifically and eliminated the data I don't want. And again, I'm going to come over here. And I'm to zoom in and out, by the way, I'm using the scroll key on my keyboard, the scroll thingy on my mouse. And I come over here and I delete that. And I delete that. Again, I just like very looking around, seeing what I have. Okay, I think I got all the big stuff. Now I got to zoom in some more. And the more I zoom in, the more you realize that, no, there's still a lot of garbage in here. Just that was what I'd done before. And this takes a few minutes, and I am doing more of as I said, my intention was to do a real-time demo, so you will see me wasting some time, or you'll see me spending some time on stuff that isn't as relevant, but again, it's part of the process. Now I'm going to come back over here to model and turn off the cameras again. I really don't need to see them, and this will allow me to sort of see what else I've left, and again, delete those things that I don't need. And zooming in and zooming out. I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with what I've got here. Look, there's an outlier there. I can delete that one. Again, I'm not totally crazy about all the stuff that I'm going to have. There's going to be a lot of garbage up above. I just want to make sure I get a real sense of what's going on. Now, a couple things to point out. As I'm moving this ball, the grid of the room is not changing. This is actually just me moving the viewpoint. If I wanted to actually move the object, then I would come over, and so I've got navigation, I've got the selection tools, I've got the region tools, and I've got the object tools. So I could rotate the object, and if I rotated the object, that would then allow me to see the object more inside of space accurately. So that's going to give us a little bit of a difference. So that now when I move the world, at least I'm relatively upright. I'm still not perfect. That's really wasn't my goal at the moment either. A couple of the things about viewing things in here. A couple of things which are really, really nice. The first is that when I go to view mode, you can look at it in perspective or orthographic. And if I click on 5, this is perspective, which is normal mode, and then orthographic. And the difference between perspective and orthographic is what happens in those distant shots. And you can really get a sense of that. And again, when you're cleaning things up or when you're looking at things, there's a very big difference between those 2 modes. The other is if I go to the preferences section, and again, the preferences section of this program is very important because the first thing is it allows me to select a GPU. When I'm doing my processing, this program will take advantage of my video card, and of course, the RAM in the video card is why I'm also crashing. The other thing here, which is very nice, is that under General, it asks me what type of stereoscopic display I'd like to use, and I have it set to anaglyph. There are actually other types of stereo that you can do, but anaglyph is great. It's red-blue glasses, and I have a pair laying around, which means that if I come back to view mode using 9, I can actually see this in red-blue 3D, and it's very, very nice. I'm going to grab my red-blue 3D glasses, and even though it's just a what's called a sparse cloud, there's enough data here that I really get a sense of the dimensionality and that I've got what I'm going with. And again, this is what I'm at right now. I've created a sparse cloud, turn off the 3D. I've created a sparse cloud from my 99 photos. Now, sometimes it gives an error message saying that it couldn't use a photo or two. In this case, it didn't. It used all 99 photos. If it can't use a photo, sometimes I can look and see whether the photo was bad or not. And the other thing it'll tell me is how many points it got. In this case, it got 65,000 points that it matched across the photographs, which is really, really awesome. So this is a rough cloud, and I've deleted a lot of data. Remember, that's 65,000 points after I've deleted the data. Now, I want to go to the next stage, back to workflow, and this time I'm going to build a dense cloud. When I build a dense cloud, I'm going to say that I want it to be the ultra high quality because I'm insane. And if I click on advanced, which I don't need to, I can do depth filtering, which is going to basically say how much it's going to try to get rid of bad data based on the depth. And it's going to calculate the point colors as well, which I think is very useful. These are default, so it's not a big deal. I'm then going to click OK. I'm going to let it run its thing. And while it says it's got 26 seconds left, I'm guessing it's got anywhere between 45 minutes to 2 hours. So we're going to pause and continue. And we're back. Now, it doesn't look like anything happened, but that's not surprising. That's the way the software works. We're still in the sparse cloud mode, and you can see over here, next to the sparse cloud or the point cloud, we now have the dense cloud, which we can turn on. Don't ask how long it actually took to render that. My computer crashed once, and several things happened along the way. But from your perspective, it just was instantaneous. And voila. Oh, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Now, I'm going to come over here and take a look, and you can really see just how much we got and how little noise there is. There's very little noise. And when you look at noise, there's really two types of noise. One is the noise that's going to be easy to grab. I mean, that stuff's not anywhere near the image. The other stuff that's going to be harder is the stuff that's really close to the surface. And that's the noise I'm really going to be trying to avoid. But for me to start cleaning this up should not be difficult at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. Now, I'm going to actually do it in a couple of ways. And I'm actually very excited because it came out so nicely. So one of the things you're going to notice is that as you're looking at this, obviously the shadows are in the original photographs, and so the shadows becomes the way this looks. And don't forget, I can go back and forth between orthographic mode, and look how square that becomes, versus the perspective mode, and I can even turn my 3D back on. Matter of fact, I'm just going to do that right now, and ooh, yeah, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful in 3D. All right, so let's get back out of 3D, since I'm assuming you didn't quickly grab 3D glasses like I did. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of this stuff, the stuff that I don't need. Now, one of the ways that I can do this is I can come over here to Tools, Dense Cloud, and select points by color. And by doing this, I could come over here, select the color that I want, which I can pick from the screen, and I can say, you know what, that brown color, see that brown color? That brown color isn't in my model. It's just there. It's probably some of the wall color. I can then set my tolerance. I'll set it to 15. Actually, you know what? I'll set it all the way up to 25. And I can even say that I really care about the red, green, and blue channel, or the hue, or the value. I can decide what I'm really looking at. Value's great if you want to just get some, high or low colors in terms of the value. When I click on OK, it's going to select like the magic wand tool does in Photoshop, and you'll notice oh, it got way too much, right? It got all this stuff here, but it looks like it got the entire surface of my image. Now, that's not the end of the world, by the way, because I can go back over here, go back to select points by color, and drop my threshold to 15% and see if that's enough to make that fall off. And not quite enough for what I want right now. So I'm not going to use this right now, though I bet I can use it up top where it'll be a little bit easier. The reality of it is this stuff's going to be really easy because it's all so far away from my model. So I can just come over here and just go, not that stuff, not that stuff, not that stuff, not that stuff, and just keep working my way around. And you'll see that, again, it is quite easy for the way this stuff is laid out because I can do that. The other question I have to ask is that how much of this column do I really want to keep? It's great that I have all this column, but do I really need all that column? Part of me is gonna kind of go back and forth on this until I decide like how much work it's going to be to clean up how much of the column. And now I will save, because I'm paranoid, and I will zoom in, and I will work only on this part. And again, now this one's a little bit tricky, because there's a lot of stuff that's just on the surface here, right? And the surface stuff I cannot grab. I have to grab the stuff that's already off to the side. But that surface stuff is not on the surface. As I keep spinning around, you'll see that it's just floating on top of the surface. But as you can see here, right, this tells me that this part of the model is gone. So I've got to make a decision about really how far down I'm going to go. And I think I'm going to go right about here. I think noise profile's right where it is. And I'm going to come over here, I'm going to grab the rectangular selection tool. I probably could be a little straighter. Let's come over here and maybe straighten this just a little bit more. Yeah, it looks a little bit straighter. Grab the rectangular selection tool, come over here, and bam. Now that's not bad. And save it again. And let's take a look. And now that is nice. There's very little noise down here for me to get rid of. Matter of fact, my model is fairly clean. I will still, as I'm spinning around, I will still zoom in and grab a couple of dots here or there, because the better I do now, the easier it is later. And again, you want to figure out where you're spinning from and zoom in as you go around the object. And yes, you can spend an enormous amount of time doing this, and I will spend an enormous amount of time doing this, and I make no apologies for that, because it makes for the better model. It's just really easy to grab the stuff that's floating on the surface. There are technical ways of doing this as well, where you say, hey, if you are so far from what looks like, because there's no surface yet, by the way. That's the other part that's fun about this, is that this looks like a surface. What you're really looking at, and if I zoom in real fast, is you're looking at just an enormously tight, packed amount of points. And those points simulate a surface. And again, we will remove those. We'll actually turn them from a simulated surface into a real surface in the next step. But you don't want to do that if you have these outliers. Some of the outliers can be removed again in the process, where what will happen is the software will go, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's close enough to match everybody else. But again, I want to do it as much as I can do on my own. It makes me feel like I really understand the surface anyway. I love that. Get real in there. I mean, look at this surface that I have created. There are two sides of this that I really like, and one of them is that sense of look at the surface that I've created. The other is look at this object that I have stolen, right? I went to an art museum, I took some photos, and now I'm going to have, for my very own, a version of it. I'm going to own it. All right, so that's the bottom. Now let's get up over here. Now, from the top, it's kind of a fun one. First, looking at this, I can come over here and I can do the orthographic view, which is going to really give you a straight-on view. And with that straight-on view, it's really easy to see where the garbage is, right? You can sit here and go, like, I don't have to worry about what this is. That is garbage. Yeah, the lack of perspective makes it easier to see what it is that you're trying to get rid of. All right. I think that's as far as I can go with that. And then, well, it crashed again, and I apologize, because unlike the last time I wasn't able to recover where I had saved from, I was able to recover my file though, and what you'll notice is I've done quite a bit of a jump, because I have cleaned up an enormous amount of my model. Basically what I did was I kind of went in and I deleted and I moved and I deleted, and I got a lot of stuff gone, and I feel really happy with this. And it's really, it really is impressive, because this is still just a point cloud, just a very high density point cloud. Mostly what I did was I just really sliced off the top, and I got it really, really flat, which will make my life a little bit easier for later on. I could have got a little bit more here and there, but I think this is a good starting point. Now, I want to remind everybody as I go through this, and I keep reinforcing what I'm doing, we started off with the photos, which took us to the sloppy version of the sparse cloud. We then cleaned up the sparse cloud as much as we could, which took us to the sloppy version of the dense cloud. We cleaned up the dense cloud as much as we could, and then I went workflow, build texture, which build mesh, which I am not going to do right now. I'm going to let it do this thing, and then I built a dense cloud. From the dense cloud, I built an arbitrary mesh of 1 million faces, and I've already done this. And I can come over here, and you're going to see that there's a third column. The third column, if we can do this without crashing, is going to have the solid version of it. And the solid version is really fun. This really lets you see how much data and depth you've got from this. And this is the assembled version. You can see that there aren't really there's nothing floating. Everything floating kind of got, sucked up somewhere. There's only 2 holes in my entire model, the top and the bottom, which I could close, by the way, if I wanted to. Matter of fact, I'll show you how we do that in a little bit. And in addition to having this model, I have the wireframe version, which you're not going to be able to see much difference of because I'm already so high res. And then most importantly, you're going to have the shaded version. The shaded version is not textured, by the way. The shaded version is based on the vertices. We're actually going to build a textured version in a little bit. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to save what I'm doing. And as you can see, that it's still pretty cool. We went from dots to shaded, a shaded mesh. Now, before we had our dense cloud tools, now we have our mesh tools. And what I can do is I can say close holes. And it's going to quickly close the holes. And if all goes well, it's going to go 1 on the bottom and 1 on the top. That's all it did. It closed the holes. And I like to do that because now I know that I have a watertight model. Notice as I look around, no other spots of pink. The reason there's no other spots of pink is because literally I had no other holes in this model, which is very, very exciting. That means I got a lot of good data. Save that again, and we're going to go on to our final step before we get out of here. And that final step is to go to Workflow, Build Texture. And when I do that, it's going to ask me what type of texture I want to build, generic, mosaic, and I'm going to do 2 1024 by 1024 textures. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to build me a texture. It doesn't take very long, by the way, but I'm still going to pause for the cause. And we're back. And again, just like before, it doesn't look like it did anything, and that's because it leaves us in the last mode we were in. But now we're going to find we have a 4th one, which is called textured. And there you go. Obviously, it doesn't know a texture at the top and the bottom, but this is a beautiful textured model. Isn't that wonderful? All from photographs. Now, of course, at a later date, I would come in here and I would paint this, though I don't think I can paint it in this program, though I do have a lot of fun in this program. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go to my last step, File, Export. And I'm going to export a model, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to make my new folder called OBJ. I'm going to put the OBJ file in there, and I'm going to make it an OBJ file, by the way, not any of these other file formats. And I'm going to call it column. And I'm going to save it, and I'm going to save the vertex colors, the vertex normals, the texture. I don't need to say that it was generated with Agisoft. I'll comment that. And I will click on OK, and I will let it export. And while it's doing that, I can come and I will be able to open up that file and be able to look at it in another program. All right, so let's pause again. So I have over here, I have my 4 files. I have my 2 column files, which are the texture files, the MTL file, but most importantly the OBJ file. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say open with the Microsoft 3D Viewer, which can take a little bit of time to open. The files can be quite large, and Microsoft 3D Viewer can be quite snarky at times, but it should load and we should see what it is that we've made. And there it is. I don't know why it's laying on its side when we did actually make it go up and down. We do have, let's take a look at the bottom. So it actually is a little bit better than just straight pink now. It's kind of just kind of a whatever average we've got here. But take a look at that. Here we have this beautiful model. So what I would do next is I would bring it into a different program, and I would probably really decimate this model so that I could load it into something like Sketchfab or into some other sort of engine, because this file is enormous. But you know what I could do with it? I could come over here I can change the light. Look at that. I really enjoy that. Move the light around it. It's so much fun. Look at that. So there you go. From photos to 3D model in just a few short, well, hours. All right. Thank you and enjoy.